Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our weekly town hall with our team from Child Nutrition. Thanks for joining us. Sorry I couldn't make it last week, but hope you're all doing well. Since the last time I talked to you, school has certainly started, so I'm sure things are fast and furious, so we appreciate you coming on board this afternoon to have a chat with us. And first, I just want to say on behalf of everyone, including everyone on this call, but also Deputy Commissioner Russell Tucker, just want to thank you for all the work that you're doing out there. We continue to, I continue to update the Commissioner on all of the work that you're doing. And as far as we're concerned, you're still doing the heroic work that you did back in March. So we know there are significant challenges now, as there were in March, and that you're handling them. Handling them well and making sure that kids are fed, and that's critically important. As kids and families are coming back into the school community and are full of stress and concern and worry about other things, it's nice that that they don't have to worry about meals. So it's really fantastic. So thank you for that. Thank you for all the work that you're doing. Couple of things that I just wanted to highlight. As we mentioned last week, Addendum 13 came out. Addendum 13 was our child nutrition program guidance and addendum to the Adapt, Advance, and Achieve document that we put out at the end of June. This provides additional guidance for child nutrition programs. So I'm sure you have seen that. I also wanted to let you know, if you haven't seen it, that on Friday, I believe, I think it was on Friday. Anyway, the governor issued Executive Order number 9 that, and included in that guidance, you can find on the governor's website. I just want to pull up the language so I don't misquote it. The governor had issued in that Executive Order number 9. So if you go to Google and you just type in Executive Orders, it'll be the first link that comes up, and you can click on that. Type in executive orders, plural. Otherwise, you'll get individual ones. So type in that, you'll get all of his orders. And the important one related to Addendum 13 is that the governor stated the operative school reopening document issued by the State Department of Education on June 29th, the Adapt, Advance, and Achieve, and related addendums, as amended from time to time, are deemed such binding guidance, rules, or orders as authorized by this order. That means that any of the addendums that the department has sent out are considered binding guidance. I don't have a specific interpretation of that being a binding law, but just know that it has the full force of the governor's executive order and not simply a memo coming from the department. So just wanted to let you know that elevates the importance of those things, and use that governor's executive order in your conversations with your leaders around what's necessary. Finally, I want to make sure, and I think Shannon probably talked about this last week, and you may have heard it from other folks, but I just want to reiterate the importance of determining eligibility prior to the October 1st data collection that the Department of Education does. We know that there may be some thought way deep in the back of your head to think, hey, we're doing SFSP or we're doing SSO. We don't have to determine eligibility, at least not until December 31st, but that would not be the case. So please make sure that you're continuing to determine eligibility beyond, and prior to that, the beginning of the school year sort of hiatus, that where kids maintain their eligibility for the first 30 days. Please make sure you do that. It has a number of implications for your schools and not just child nutrition. So it has implications for education cost sharing. It has implications for Title I funding. It has implications as well for, in some cases, the department paying for low-income kids to take entrance exams and advanced placement exams and things like that. But as important, as you know, in the USDA guidance around SFSP and SSO, it's only in place until December 31st, with the caveat that they have indicated that they could pull it and cancel that, if funding runs out. So you're gonna have to do it anyway. So Please make sure you're following up on those applications for your non-CEP folks, and making sure you're checking case management in the DC system to make sure that you're getting all of those kids. Working with your homeless liaisons to make sure that they're letting you know which kids are homeless, and all of those things are critically important. So please stay up on that. We will probably be issuing an email. Probably we'll send it out to you as well, but it will probably be coming from the performance office to make sure that those folks are connecting with you to make sure that they have the most current numbers for the October 1st data collection. The collection begins on October 1st, and I think they have 1 or 2 weeks to enter that data. So with that, I know the team's got a lot to cover, so I'm gonna shut my camera off and listen. Thanks.
Thank you so much, John. So we are going to run this town hall just a little bit differently, and we're going to only feature one of us at a time until we get to the open questions at the end of the session. So I just want to thank our fearless leader, John, for all the work that he's been doing to make sure that nutrition programs really stay at the forefront of all of these conversations around reopening and school, and that folks are really aware of the very serious nature of the programs and how impactful they are for the students that the schools are working to educate. And so I also wanted to start this town hall with just a reminder that we are a very small team, and we really do our very best to provide as much technical assistance and answer your questions and be able to problem solve with you. But it is the reality that we're a pretty small team. So I'm going to re-emphasize that everything that we send out, really, we spend a lot of time making sure that it is highly detailed with all the information you need with the instructions. We understand that you have a lot on your plate, and we understand you're trying to navigate this with us and with USDA, and we have tools that sometimes we need to make sure that you guys understand to use. And I just really want to encourage you that before you reach out to your consultant, that you've read through what we've sent to you, that you really make sure you're paying attention to what's in the school lunch tray, that you've checked out the website, the webpage under the child nutrition page for the school nutrition reopening information. We are really trying to make it very responsive and include the information that you need. We know that we are not able to humanly give back to each of you in as much time as in the short timelines that you need us to. And so that helps us be able to really manage being able to provide you the guidance that we have not already. And so please read through that guidance. If you're wondering if you've submitted the right paperwork to us, you don't need to reach out. You just need to check your online system, or you need to check that if you sent that email, if you did send it to the place where you were instructed to in each of the applications or in each of the notifications, then we did receive it and we will process it accordingly. So just a big reminder and a big favor to us that we really want to be able to help you and help you navigate, but we definitely provide the resources and tools for that. So please make use of those, and remember that page on the website is really helpful and really has a lot of the information you need. So we are aware that USDA is working fast and furiously to try and figure out some of the questions that we've been asking, some of our states have been asking, and to provide that guidance. We know that they have several documents on the horizon that they plan to release, but release those as soon as they can. That ends last Friday. We did receive additional information from the USDA in the form of a question and answer and an additional nationwide waiver. The nationwide waiver is really specific to summer food service program operators, and so Caroline will talk through that a little bit more. And we're not really going to go into detail on that, since we know that's not going to impact some of you. And so just to let you know that did come out, we did opt into it. And then we also know that USDA issued the question and answer document. Again, those are going to be found on our website or on the USDA's website. And I just want to take the opportunity to once again remind you that when USDA issues guidance or when they issue waivers, it has to be a one-size-fits-all across the nation, and it has to fit every state. therefore it can be, I can hazard a guess, it'd be pretty complex for them to write and to be able to issue. And so just please know that when you see that the nationwide waivers, when you see the Q&As, that we may not be able to implement them into the same extent that they're written into that nationwide waiver. And so we will be issuing guidance that is specific to Connecticut. So we are working on another Q&A ourselves that did change a little bit based off of the USDA's Q&A. So we hope to get that out soon. We're working on a resource for you to help you really navigate these decisions through what routes are available to you for providing meals, especially during this September through December time, where we have a little bit more flexibility in what we can allow you to do. So just keep your eyes out. That will go out through school lunch tray, or we will be able to, or we will send you a separate communication to help you be able to keep that organized on your end. Another reminder also to submit your questions for these town halls ahead of time. We have the ability, so you'll see that again in the school lunch tray, that link that you can submit those questions. That allows us to make sure that we have time and make the space to be able to address those questions on these town halls. With that, I know we have a ton more to cover, and we're going to start off with a little bit of an overview about what's going on in the summer food service program world. So Caroline, with that, I'm going to turn my camera off unless you want me to stay on. You good? All right. I'll still be here even if you can't see me. So with that,
okay.
I can let me point the right way.
Okay, great. So thank you for your time, everyone. We appreciate that you're here. You know, obviously it's a little nerve-wracking for us to get on camera and answer questions when we don't have all the answers ourselves yet. So we appreciate your patience. We know that sometimes the conversations that we have generate even more questions. So as Shannon said earlier, please just have mercy and know that if you don't hear from us immediately, it's not that we don't care about your inquiry, and it's just that we're getting lots of inquiries. So we're answering them as quickly as we can, but we're still trying to put materials together that you need to continue to move forward and make the decisions that are best for your communities and get all of the documentation in place so that later on down the road, we can go back and try to retrace our steps and make sure that we have a clear picture of everything that took place during these unusual times. So that being said, I know that it's always most comfortable to have a light at the end of the tunnel and know that you have everything set and ready to go for a period of time when it comes to applications and waivers and all of the documentation that we need from you. So once things get submitted, we start to get bombarded with questions of, am I all set? Do you need anything else? Is there anything I'm missing? What do I need to do next? So just keep in mind that this is going to be a little bit different this year than usual. That light at the end of the tunnel is currently set at December 31st. So between now and then, there's a number of things that we need to get done, and we're trying to work through them, as I said last week, on a step-by-step basis. So it's not, here's the item that you need to do, it's done, now you're all set. This is the next step that we're on, working your way through that step, getting that information collected that we need, submitted, and then waiting for instructions on the next step. And I apologize, it does seem endless at this point, but there's timing involved with all of this that's a little bit challenging. So we're going to walk through the steps, and the application is essentially going to be done in phases this year, because the first thing that we need to do is update essentially last year's application. For any of you that are operating the seamless summer option or the summer food service program, September is technically still part of last year, which feels a little awkward. And is unusual in comparison to the rest of school year business. But because of that, we're still in school year 2019-2020 for this month. So we are going to have to be updating online agreements and applications for SSO and SFSP to get us through September 30th. Then the next round is going to be a new application that takes effect October 1st. In the meantime, we're going to be making sure that we're understanding what waivers you're implementing, and in some cases, what sites you're implementing those waivers at, because it will make a difference for us and for our reporting to USDA. Again, after all of this takes place, we're responsible for making sure that we have a good understanding what went on for all of you, and then we're responsible for ensuring that USDA gets a good indication of what went on statewide. One of the areas that we're going to be working on very soon is area eligibility, and I know that we've referred in a couple of documents that have come your way to an area eligibility waiver application. So many of you may be aware of the fact that traditional summer meals operations under the Seamless Summer Option or the Summer Food Service Program during the summer months, the way they normally happen, is conducted under eligibility of locations, primarily of where meals are being served. And that can be determined through either school data or census data. With emergency meals starting back in last March, we did have the opportunity to extend the opportunity to operate Seamless Summer Option and Summer Food Service Program in areas that are not traditionally eligible for summer meal service through a waiver. And that waiver has been periodically extended and has been extended again. But this time through, it's going to be important for you to be looking at each of your sites to determine, is it eligible through traditional methods, or is it going to be eligible through implementation of this waiver? And the reason that's something that's important for you is because if you have not operated summer meals in the past, or if you've not had the opportunity to operate in some of the particular sites that you're operating now, and we're able to determine that under this year's set of data for school data or census data, it is meeting traditional eligibility criteria, you would then have the opportunity to continue to serve at that site for the next 4 consecutive years, potentially. But we have a very small window of time in which we could capture that eligibility. So according to census data, if you're eligible now, that could potentially change as of October 1st with a new set of census data that will be released by USDA. So when the area eligibility waiver application goes out, there will be some information in there that helps you walk through determining whether each of your steps meets traditional eligibility requirements or does not. If it does, and you might be interested in being able to use that site for the next few years, I encourage you to reach out either to myself or to Therese Maneri so that we can confirm that eligibility, document it for you, and preserve that eligibility for the next 4 consecutive years. So that information will be coming out. Please be looking for it, and when you read through it, that's what it's referring to. If you're in circumstances where you're operating sites that would not be traditionally eligible, and you're not normally interested in serving summer meals, it's not a need in your community, or there's other ways that kids are being able to access resources, don't worry about it. But if it's an opportunity for you that either fits in with, inquiries you've had in the past or plans that you've been wondering about in the past, please feel free to reach out to Therese or myself with that. There will be an opportunity to collect information on the waiver flexibilities in the system. Our software company is working on a mechanism to be able to capture that in the online system, so that will be coming. The reason you haven't received anything yet is because they're still working on it, and that will be coming. I've received a couple of questions with some degree of frequency, so I'm just going to cover them really quickly right now. One of them is monitoring specific to the Summer Food Service Program. I've heard questions about what are obligations regarding to monitoring for the Summer Food Service Program based on the waivers that are in place. So you need to know that there have been waivers and they were extended periodically, but the current waiver expires on September 30th. It does not go all the way to December. And the other thing that you need to be aware of is that it allows a waiver of on-site monitoring. It does not waive all monitoring responsibilities. It means that you have the option, if you feel like you need to provide protection from exposure to the coronavirus, to do a desk audit instead of an traditional on-site monitoring process that you normally follow. So I urge you all to please read the waiver very carefully and understand what your responsibilities are for monitoring your sites. And one other question that I've received a few times is about milk service and whether or not you can serve, if you are required to serve in half-pint container size, or if you're serving multiple meals at one time, if you can serve in a larger quantity size. And you can serve in a larger quantity size if you choose to. Just be sure to do the math. Depending on however many meals you're offering, you should be providing the minimum required 8 ounces for each meal that you're distributing. And I think that's what was on my list for today. And so I am going to pass back to Shannon.
Thank you, Caroline. That was a really great explanation, very helpful. And Caroline has swapped out for Fanula, whose picture just appeared here. So I'm going to hand it back over to Fanula now to be able to talk through some other information for you. And don't forget to start asking your questions in the question box. That will give us a chance to start looking into how we'll what we can answer today and be able to formulate. So certainly use that and type away. All right, with that, thank you so much, Caroline and Fanula. I'm going to go off camera.
Okay, thank you, Shannon. So I'm just going to speak directly to the seamless summer option. So a lot of it Caroline covered, but specifically for those seamless summer sponsors, right now we have over 100 sponsors that have elected to operate the seamless summer option for fall of 2020. So as Caroline mentioned, you're all probably thinking about what is the next step, and it is just steps. So for the seamless summer sponsors, you will be receiving that area eligibility application, and most of you will be completing that application. Caroline went into detail for those sponsors that are looking to use the traditional area eligibility using census or school data to ensure and lock that in for the years to come. Contact Caroline and Therese. But the majority of the seamless summer sponsors are going to be completing that area eligibility waiver application. And with that application, you're going to receive instructions on updating the online system. Again, for the seamless summer sponsors, you will be updating the online system for the school year 1920, and you're going to have specific instructions on how to do that. You'll be updating each school or site that's going to be participating in the seamless summer option. And for many of you, you haven't done this because the state agency, we did this in the spring when you operated emergency feeding. So for many of you, completing this section in the online application will be new. And so please refer to those instructions. We're going to try and make those as detailed as possible, and to read over those and make sure you utilize that before reaching out to us. But it will walk through all of the information you'll need to enter into the sponsor application under the seamless summer option for each school or site that will be participating. And again, you'll be completing that for cover September going into the 1920 application, and then in October we'll be asking you to do that again to cover October, November, and December. So that's next steps for the seamless summer option. So please, I know I get a lot of emails, as do my colleagues, when is that coming out? Because we have referenced that, and that is the next step. And as soon as we have that available, we will be sending that out. So it's the area eligibility waiver application. And again, most seamless sponsors will be completing that to cover those sites to allow them to operate under these programs. And then you'll receive instructions on updating the online system. Additionally, at some point when the system is capable, you will be receiving instructions on identifying site-specific waivers for your programs operating as well. So please bear with us. We know this is challenging. We know these are a lot of steps that we're sending out to you, but it is step by step, and that is it that I am covering. That's it. Thank you. I'm back to Shannon.
All right, so that is the end of our predetermined agenda. We wanted to make sure that we left plenty of time today for you to be able to ask your questions. So I'm going to ask my team to all come back on so we can answer your questions together. And so right now we have one question in the question box, and that is, what is the best way to manage meal pickups? We have some parents picking up for other families who are not able to get here at the time of service. So this is a great question because it is just it's a great time to remind you that the waiver of flexibility only authorizes the parents or guardians to pick up on behalf of the child. It does not authorize any other individuals to do that. So you really need to have some policies in place that ensure that the meals are just being distributed only to those parents or guardians of the children who are going to be eating those meals. And so we understand that not everybody is able to get to pickup sites at meal service times. So we encourage you to think about if you have some flexibility on your end, if there's other locations or other service times you could accommodate to make sure that parents are able to pick those meals up on behalf of their children. That's certainly something you could consider. We know some districts are looking at having evening distributions for remote learners, and remote learners are able to pick up breakfast and lunch during a 5 to 6 distribution, which is helpful to a lot of parents and guardians who work those more traditional work hours. So certainly that's a great question because it's one that I think has been a little bit confusing throughout with the nationwide waivers, but they really are specific to the parents and guardians, and that they aren't allowing like neighbors and such to be able to come pick those meals up. All right, do we have any other questions from folks? Caroline, you have a question?
I have a question and an answer, even better. So we have received some questions. Teresa and I have received some questions about counting, because counting during the summer is a little different, obviously, than counting during the school year. So during the summer for SSO and SFSP, the meal count does not have to be tied to a particular child, but it does have to be a point of service count. So we're getting very general questions saying, how do we count? And unfortunately, that Teresa and I cannot answer for you, because that's something that has to be answered very specific to how your meals are being distributed, where they're being distributed, who's distributing them in terms of what will be allowable. So we need it to be a point of service count. It has to be counted at the time it's distributed. It's supposed to be counted after an assessment has been made that it's a reimbursable meal, meaning all of the components are there. So we cannot offer you a suggestion because we don't know everything that's going on in your organization. So we don't know where those meals are being distributed, who's doing it, what it looks like. We are open to looking at your offer. So come to us with an offer and say, this is what we would like to do. This is what we think we can do accurately. Here's who would be involved in the steps and what the steps are. And we're happy to review that for you. But if you come to us with a very vague question of what should we do, unfortunately, we can't answer that because we don't have the information to answer that for you. So we apologize. It's not that we're trying to be difficult. It's not that we don't want to help. It's just that we don't have sufficient information to be able to give you that answer.
That's a really great point, Caroline. And I think that's some of the challenge with the moving parts and with the newly created flexibilities and limited guidance that we've received on how to really help provide that guidance to you. So really what we would encourage is to look at what is going to work best for your district, what's going to work best for your children that you're trying to reach. How are you going to best be able to manage that on your end with the capacity that you have to be able to administer these programs? Certainly serving meals that you are able to claim the number of meals you're serving through the programs that are offered through the Seamless Summer option and the Summer Food Service Program can help you streamline your administration of the programs. It's a little bit more challenging when you go the route of the school breakfast and school lunch in terms of if you're non-congregate or if you have various types of models you're operating for your learners. We know keeping track of those meals claimed by student and claiming those appropriately and making sure they're associated with their home-based school can certainly be a challenge. So, you know, we really think through what's going to help you maximize your reimbursement, be able to reach the most kids, and what systems do you have in place, what point of service do you have to be able to maintain the program integrity. The other thing is just to, you know, what John had mentioned in the beginning, it's really important that you continue to collect in those income eligibility applications. Your households are not, you know, if you are serving meals at no cost to them, they may not really understand the incentive to submit those applications to you. Please encourage them to submit them. Please verify them through the month of September, because what we do know is the waiver authority to do to operate summer meals during the school year does currently expire on December 31st. So on January 1st, as it stands now, school breakfast, school lunch will be the route that everybody is going to take. So make sure that you're prepared to do that, and to also pivot quickly in case the funding for the determination of the area eligibility runs out. And that is something that only Food and Nutrition Services of USDA will know. And they are committed to trying to get that information out ahead of time should that funding be at risk of expiring before December 31st. So Terry, please jump in.
Shannon, I also want to point out that in the school lunch tray this week, there's that reminder about applications, and there's also a reminder about verification, because if you're collecting applications, you still have to conduct a verification process. And so we've received some questions around that, and it's the same verification process as always. And it starts on October 1st, and all of the verification forms have been updated and are on our website. And so you want to make sure that you all have your ducks in a row, so that way you can do that process as well. It's very important. And read the school lunch tray news, because there's also an example that was given regarding alternative language or additional language that you can include in an email to your parents, because they may be confused because they're receiving an application that they might tell them that they're determined to be reduced or they have to be paid full price, and yet they're getting free meals right now. So there might be some confusion. So there's an example of some language that you can use in an email to them when you notify them, because you still have to send out the parent notification letters. You still have to do direct certification. And with direct certification, parent notification letters have to be sent. So there may be some confusion. So make sure you check your school lunch tray for details on that. Thank you.
Thanks, Terry. I'm trying to put myself on mute in between, and my computer is being a little slow, so I apologize for the awkward delay in between. So there's a question if we can clarify under the recent seamless summer option extension, if meals are allowed to be delivered to families without available transportation to pick up those meals at a school location. So what USDA has told us is that if we can really look at the guidance that we had out in the spring. And so part of what we as a state did around area eligibility when we were allowed to do that during the initial approval in March under an unanticipated school closures is we allowed household delivery for sponsors serving area eligible sites. So our community wide was what we were really calling those, where you're serving any kid 18 and younger. And part of the reason for that is because at the national level, the sites or the areas that were being served that did not meet those traditional area eligibility rules, the guidance is that the sponsor can only deliver meals do household delivery to children who qualify for free or reduced price meals when you're under that 50% free and reduced threshold. We felt that that was pretty confusing, and we also know that it's very difficult to manage overt identification and making sure that you're not overtly identifying children if you're only able to serve the children who are eligible for free reduced price meals. So as it stands, USDA is going to allow household delivery, but if you are planning on household delivery, please reach out to your consultant for a little bit of problem solving around that. And Caroline you're certainly welcome to jump in.
Okay, so how home delivery is definitely kind of one branch of this line of questions, and we've also received questions about some other community sites that might normally be served during the summertime that are not served during the school year. We've had questions about continuing bus route delivery that some sponsors put in place for emergency meals in the spring and continued over the summer. So as Shannon started to say, definitely reach out to your county consultant if you're operating the Seamless Summer option. If you're operating the summer food service program, you would be reaching out to either myself or Therese, depending on which one of us approved your application this year. But what you're going to hear from us is that we need more information. So we're going to require an integrity plan from you that identifies how you're going to be able to provide meals to these families, to these children, but ensure that you're maintaining the integrity of providing the correct number of meals that the kids are entitled to. So with the advent of the school year, with some kids in school, some kids maybe on their home hybrid days, and you may have other students that are fully remote learning that are not going in-person classes at all. You've got kids all over the community accessing meals in different locations. This is not a free-for-all to just throw meals out in the community. You need to be doing your due diligence of determining where the meals are being served, how they're being served, so that you're maintaining the integrity of your program, making sure that families are aware of what they're entitled to receive as part of the program, and helping to support that happens appropriately. And we will walk you through that process by having you submit us an integrity plan so that we can review your thought process, provide some technical assistance along the way, and help you come up with the most solid plan that you can to approach that.
Thank you, Caroline. That was very helpful, much more helpful than my answer. So we have another question around claiming. So the question is, just to confirm, depending on when a district started school and when SFSP, so that's the Summer Food Service Program, was approved, it's possible that both an NSLP and an SFSP claim could be filed for September. So to answer that question, the nationwide waiver that was issued on Friday is really helpful for SFSP sponsors. And what we will be able to do is allow claiming as long as everything else is in place through September, through the summer programs. Now, there's some nuances to that, and there are some questions that we are not able to answer right now, and we have posed those to USDA. So I can't answer that in much more specificity outside of that. We will be providing additional guidance as soon as we get guidance, but we are able to make some of those meals retroactive, but we're still in the process of getting that guidance from USDA on how we implement that. So stay tuned on that one. And then Caroline or Therese, I think this one is, this next one for SFSP, will we use the SFSP claim filing process as we have done since March? You're definitely better to answer that one than I am.
You will. So part of that is walking through the steps of the online agreement updates, because that can't take place until we have site applications for each one of your sites in place, approved for the specific time frame, for the number of operating days, and those types of things. So yes, but not yet.
And although that question was specific to SFSP, it might be, I'm not I am the first to confess I don't use our online system day in and day out, and so I certainly am not savvy with that. But so I'm just going to ask if that's for our seamless summer option team, if that's also the same guidance you would be giving for seamless summer option, or in terms of how if they're going to claim in the same manner that they did during March. Oh, you're on mute, Susan.
Okay, yes and no, right? So in March, some of them did a little bit of both. So, but I would say definitely from, you know, the end of March through whenever, if they did SSO, they would, there will be at some point claiming in the SSO portion of the claiming module and not NSLP like they normally would during the school year. But as part of what after, like Manola said, once we get out the next steps with, which has the, you know, how to put the sites into the online system, that last piece that we'll send out will be how they're going to claim. So again, for SSO, you're just going to want to wait for additional guidance to come out, and we'll kind of take you through step by step what you're going to need to do that.
Thank you. And I do want to just again reiterate what Caroline had started with when she was speaking earlier, and that this is definitely, you know, we wish that we could help tell you when where the goalpost for the end zone is, so that, you know, I filed all of the paperwork that I need to, we're all set. But I think it is going to be an ongoing process throughout the year as USDA issues more flexibilities, and as we have to implement those and make sure that we are giving you the appropriate information so that we can implement these things properly. So bear with us. We really do take into very, very strong consideration the administrative burden on your end, and we try our very best to streamline that while still maintaining the program integrity. So the other thing that Caroline mentioned is an integrity plan, and that's really, there's no template for that. We don't have a specific application or form. That's really you telling us how you are going to operate these programs to make sure that they stay in compliance with the regulations. So that's really going to be you're thinking through your particular set of circumstances and what you have that you're facing in order to let us know how you're going to make sure that you can operate these programs and keep track accordingly. So I believe these are some repeat questions. So I'm not sure what you guys see on your end, but we take out the questions as we answer them so that we make sure that we don't get lost in the questions. So if you see them disappearing, don't worry, they're not disappearing forever. We have these on record. So if we're not able to answer those right now, we are able to keep those. That's just a way for us to stay a little bit sorted on our end with a variety of different locations we're in. So our next question is, over the summer, we could serve to all children in the community 18 and under, regardless of where they go to school. Is that the case now through SSO, that we can only serve students in the district? So this is really the heart of this question, is really area eligibility versus closed enrolled. So I'm not the best person to talk through this. So I'm going to lean on our consultants to really talk through how that area eligibility works and what it means to be traditionally eligible or to be able to use this waiver.
Okay.
Not all at once.
I'm just going to answer the question. So applying and operating SSO, yes, you've completed the first step by submitting that application indicating that you are looking to implement to operate SSO for the fall. Next will be that area eligibility application. If your sites are not traditionally area eligible using school data or census data, and once you've submitted that and then have the instructions to update the online system, these are seamless summer sites that children are fed 18 and younger. So you may serve all children 18 and younger from these approved seamless summer sites. I'm not going to get into closed enrolled, but if Shannon would like to, or someone else, that's fine. But operating these seamless summer sites, we're looking to approve them as sites to open up to the community. And we've received a lot of questions about this and a lot of apprehension from some sponsors about what this would mean. And really, you need to look at it that this allows you to feed the students enrolled in your school for free and receive the free reimbursement. And then you may set up a system to distribute meals for your remote learners and then allowing community members as well, 18 and younger, to receive those meals. So it's not necessarily a huge burden if it's prepared and communicated appropriately to the community. And again, you can reach out to your county consultant if I am confusing you with what I'm saying.
So I'm going to jump in and add too, just to add to the confusion. So in summer meals, when they're operated in the summer and there's no coronavirus, there are open sites where anyone from the public is able to attend, and they're closed enrolled sites, which is a site that's intended to serve a specific group of children. Closed enrolled sites really help those communities that have need but don't meet traditional eligibility requirements of 50% higher free and reduced eligible children, either through school data or census data. So it allows you to look at a group of kids and say this group is meeting because they're enrolled in a type of activity for the summer, and we've looked at their individual household incomes, and 50% or more of them are eligible for free or reduced price school meals. So you're able to feed all of the kids at no charge to the family. The circumstances that we're operating now make open sites versus closed enrolled sites much more confusing. And so we really stayed away from that language in the spring for emergency meals. But we're back to area eligibility waivers and these types of items that are going on. And we are really advocating on behalf of the large number of students in Connecticut that attend charter schools and magnet schools, school choice. And we know that there's so many kids that are under school age that maybe not in a preschool program that really need access to these meals. I mean, this is a pandemic that has changed the landscape of our state's economy, and there are so many families in need. So although it can be very scary for administration to have visions of all of these people flooding into schools and asking for meals, we know that that doesn't normally happen. And although that fear may still be there, there are some steps that could be taken to allow access to kids and still maintain security and safety of the school environment, and it still allows some predictability for the food service staff in terms of estimating the number of meals that they're going to need. So we ask you, we are really pleading with you to be very open about open sites and making sure that there's access in your community. If you are applying for the area eligibility waiver, expect that you are going to need to give access to your community. It may not be at every school, and we can certainly work with you on that. But if we're granting you area eligibility, there is a component that's going to require you to make those meals accessible. So when we talk about closed enrolled schools, we're talking about environments where for a particular compelling reason, you need to ensure and maintain that you're only serving the kids that are enrolled at that school. But we will work with you and talk with you if you have a plan where you know that your remote learners are all getting their meals at a certain location. That could be the location where other people are accessing meals, whether it's students that are going to other districts or outside of the district schools for charter or magnet schools, and younger siblings of your students and that type of thing. You can concentrate that meal pickup if you need to, if that maximizes your resources effectively. But we may need to work that through with you to ensure that that access is available.
Just one other thing I'm just going to add, and I think this is where it kind of keeps changing. The first few town halls before SSO and SFST even became an option, we kept drilling home, you can only serve students enrolled in your schools. So again, if the question is now with SSO, with all of the explanation that myself and Caroline just gave, yes, you can serve children, and we encourage you to serve children, not just enrolled in your school. You'll be approved to serve all students 18 and younger. If that helps, just adding that.
Thank you. I think it all helps, right? The more clarity we can provide, the better. So this is another really great question, and another great opportunity to kind of remind everybody of the difference and how you claim between the different programs. So the question here is, do we need to track the number of kids that are getting meals who are not students in a district and not connected to a specific school? And so I'll hand that one over to my team if they want to answer that. And I think this is a really great reminder for when you're claiming, if you do operate the school breakfast, school lunch program, where you're claiming those those meals that were served to the kids or to the parents, guardians who picked those up, or if you're serving out of SFSP or SSO, how you do those claims. And just as a small reminder, I know our child and adult care food program at-risk after-school meals team is team of one. Susan is also joining our town hall, and just to remind you on that, if you're a program sponsor for those at-risk after-school meals, we also USD has indicated that there will be a specific guidance coming out on those very, very soon. But if you are an at-risk after-school meal sponsor under the Child and Adult Care Food Program, please know any meals that you do serve must be claimed at the site they are served. With that, since I have the rest of our summer experts on here, I'm going to hand it over to them to talk a little bit more about how that claiming works between the programs.
Okay, so we did, the NSLP team was really focused on trying to help people think through how are you going to track meals back to where kids are, in what school kids are enrolled in. So if you're running SSO and SFSP, we're past that conversation. And meals have to be counted at the site where they're distributed. So when you have options to run multiple programs, it gets a little sticky figuring it out, but just make sure that you're very clear on which program you're operating. If you're operating NSLP and school breakfast program, those meals get claimed at the school of enrollment. So if you're serving your remote learners in a separate location, you need to track those meals back to where they go to school. With SFSP and SSO, the meals get tracked where they're distributed. Same as CACFP, as Shannon just said. So that's where we're at right now. It depends on which program you're operating.
So, and that's super helpful. Susan Alston.
Just going to say, and I think the question is, like, you don't have to separately track the kids that aren't enrolled in your district if that's what so you don't have to separately track, okay, these are all my students. But then yet I had, 15 that weren't students. I think you could, if you wanted to kind of plan and help you, figure out how many extra meals you may need to make or what's going on. But you don't have to count those separately, right? You don't have to keep them tracked differently.
We do know that some people are getting creative with pre-order systems to help manage expectations of how many meals to have ready. You can certainly do that. We just ask that if you choose to do that, that you remember if a family shows up that has not pre-ordered, that does not mean that you can send them home to order and come back. You still need to figure out a way to help them. But certainly at the time that you're helping them at that first visit where they haven't pre-ordered, you can provide them some guidance on how they can follow that pre-order system in the future. And as Susan Alston said, there may be some value to you to figure out if there's a number of children that are either attending other schools or younger siblings. It might be valuable information to you, but you don't specifically need it for claiming purposes.
Thank you so much. And I know I was going to add on to that, and I'm completely forgetting what it was that I was going to add on to that. Oh, right. So if you are operating open sites through area eligibility and they're open to the community, please make sure that information is also, if you're doing a pre-ordering system, that information is also available to the community. And how you make that information available is really going to be up to you. But the more meals you serve, the more funds you'll be able to bring in to support your program. So we do encourage you to try and maximize that access. The other thing is that if you do a pre-order system, a lot of folks are doing that from an online system, but keep in mind all of your households may not have access to the internet or online, which definitely has been a challenge, I know, with remote learning and trying to make sure that everybody's equipped to be able to maintain that social distancing. But we highly encourage you to make that pre-ordering system available also by people being able to call or submit orders in a different way. So just keep that in mind. Not everybody has that online access. Okay, so we have a request from someone on the call that if somebody does have a pre-order system in place, to offer that information up so that they can have somebody to problem solve with around that pre-ordering. And if nobody is able to indicate that on the town hall, certainly reach out to your consultant who might have an idea of some of the folks out there who are pre-ordering who'd be willing to talk with you a little bit further. I'd also encourage you, if you are a member, even if you're not a member of the School Nutrition Association of Connecticut, that they also have a tremendous network of school food authorities across our state who they can certainly help connect you with peers and colleagues. And so I would also encourage you to make sure that you reach out with them as well. The more peer support we have in this, the more collaborative efforts and kind of problem solving through that, I think that's how we're going to get through all of this together. I know we do that with our neighboring states a lot, so certainly encourage you to reach out to your peers for that. Who would like to speak about, oh, sorry.
Sorry, I wanted to make a pitch for that also. I just heard from a few food service directors mentioning the School Nutrition Association and their Friday meetings and how they're learning a lot, and there's a lot of sharing about operations in these crazy times. So if you are a member, I encourage you to sign up for that. If you're not, reach out and look to possibly become a member, because I think there's a lot of support and with that association. So the School Nutrition Association of Connecticut is definitely there to assist you as well.
Caroline, are you ready to answer the weekends and holidays question?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, over to you.
So this is a question that does keep coming up. Are we able to serve meals for weekends and holidays? So this is a great pitch to switch off of school breakfast program and national school lunch program to seamless summer option and summer food service program, because under SSO and SFSP, you are able to serve meals for weekends and holidays. We are in a very strange set of circumstances now where we are not operating under unanticipated school closure, but we are operating summer meals. So one of the oddities that we had last spring with emergency meals under unanticipated school closure was that you could not serve meals if it was a day that was not scheduled to be instructional. So if it was Good Friday and it was planned to be off, or if it was spring break and it was already planned to be off, it was not an unanticipated school closure because it was part of the school calendar. It was in fact anticipated that you would be closed. So we had to receive special permission for you to be able to order to serve on those days. We had to collect information on who was planning to serve on those days. We are not operating that way. So you are able to serve for weekends, holidays, professional development days, serve meals. You know, like Shannon said, you know, do what you can to preserve your counts. We know that these are extremely challenging times. We know that the families need the meals. Construct the meals, make sure they're full meals. Please try to make sure they're including foods that kids are going to eat, because if they don't eat them, they don't get the nutritional benefit from them. But serve. But serve what they're entitled to have. So we need some integrity around the program. We need to make sure people are getting what they're entitled to have. Where you can maximize that by doing weekend and holiday meals, that's great. But make sure that you have a plan in place of how you're going to encourage people to obtain the meals that they are entitled to have.
Thank you. that. Caroline, I think this one is also one that you can speak to around the SFSP, the first week site visit. Um, are you able to speak to that? I know there is a nationwide waiver around that.
Sure, I can speak to it. I'm going to read it really quickly because I didn't see that one yet. So the question is, hi there, is the first week site visit form required since we already started and it will be after August 30th? I hope this makes sense. I think it makes sense. I think I know what you're asking. And I touched on this a little bit before. So we did have waivers in place way back in the spring in the beginning of emergency meals that pertain to normal summer functions, one of which is a first week site visit for all sites. It was waived for sites that are veteran sites that have been operated in the past that did not exhibit operational challenges in the preceding year. So if you have sites that you know struggle a little bit, this does not apply to them. The first week site visit is a bit of a challenge right now with monitoring because I said monitoring waivers are ending. So we're headed into a new fiscal year with the summer food service program starting October 1. So anything that's eligible through September 30th only gets you through a couple more weeks. So what I would encourage you to do is to consider how you need to be checking in on your sites to make sure that they have the resources they need to operate appropriately, that you've trained them with the information that they need to meet your expectations. And you are not required at this time to go out and visit them in person, but it's very challenging to know what's going on if you're not in person. So most of the sites that are operating are schools. If you go to your schools, fill out the form. It really doesn't take that long. I know it's one more thing to do, and I'm sorry for that. The first week site visit form is not a challenging form. It's a front and back. It's check, 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 sign the bottom. So if you know legitimately that you have no concerns that this is a veteran site, okay, that's fine. If there's any question about whether or not there's staff that needs additional training, that there are resources that need to be put in place for a site, just jot it down on the form. It gives you a way to backtrack that you were there, that you assessed that they were operating the way they were intended to be operating. If you have specific questions about specific sites, don't hesitate to reach out to Teresa and myself.
So thank you so much. And this, the USDA has indicated that additional guidance on the first week site visits past once the new federal fiscal year starts may be forthcoming. So once we get that information too, we'll certainly send it out. We don't know what that's going to look like, but to Caroline's point, this is definitely a question that we have received. So and one that is on our radar. So we have gone a few minutes over again. I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up and then encourage you that if you have questions, if you still have outstanding questions, if you have questions you'd like us to be considering or ones that we might need to raise to USDA, certainly please use that link to submit those questions for the town hall ahead of time. It is extremely helpful to us. It's extremely helpful to the USDA. It's good information for us to know exactly what the questions are that you have in the field so that we can really focus where those priorities need to be. So we are hopeful to get this area eligibility application out to you without much further delay. We know these are complex programs that we have to make sure that these applications meet all of the regulatory requirements and take into account the different flexibilities. And so sometimes that does take a little bit longer than is ideal, and we apologize for that. But thank you so much for everybody for all you're doing. Thank you to my team who continues to amaze and astound me every day with what they accomplish and are able to pull off. And please hang in there. We will make it through this school year together, and then it will be time for regular summer meals before we even know it. So thank you, everybody. And Caroline, you're still on camera. So with that, thank you, everybody, and we'll go ahead and wrap up this town hall for today.